Welcome to Theater and Stream, a film podcast. I am Matt, that is Chuck. This is episode 61. Today we mourn the loss of a cinematic titan, David Lynch, a man of many, many talents, a painter, a musician, a cartoonist, a writer, a lover of cigarettes, the ambassador for meditation, and an amateur weatherman. But nothing so much as a filmmaker. Movie critic Pauline Kael called Lynch a genius naif, the first populist surrealist. But Lynch himself, when he was asked to describe himself, simply said 4 words: Eagle Scout, Missoula, Montana. Today's episode will be largely devoted to the director that was. We're going to discuss his life. We're going to reappraise 2 of Lynch's best films. But that is not all. We also made time for some news, some more current stuff, and everything else we've been watching. But before we get into everything, a little bit of housekeeping here. It's been a long 3 weeks since we've had one of these episodes, but we have sort of rewrited the proverbial ship. Consider this our first episode back on the wagon. 2 weeks from now, we will have another episode. But yeah, other than that, Chuck, anything else you wanted to discuss before we got into it?
Oh, just that at some point my promised minisodes will be made. They're in the backlog. I will get to them when I am able to. I know that everyone is just dying to hear what like random ass miniseries I have to recommend. But Quentin Tarantino did have some interesting quotes coming out of an interview he gave, I believe, to Variety, and it made my noggin jog. But my ability to sit in front of the workstation and get my thoughts down, on a microphone, it didn't materialize, unfortunately, because as you'll hear in my mentionable, my life has been chaotic, due to my day job as of late, amongst other things. But transition, I guess, into the news. There's kind of a dystopian nightmare that they're trying to sell to us. This company called Telly, like 2 years ago now, announced that they were going to be putting out a product that was a free TV. And this TV was going to have, as you'll see in this video here, a sound bar and then a second like billboard screen underneath it that essentially just functions as an advertising vehicle for local companies could pay to be on a TV ad stream, so you could have like Jimmy's tire shop pitching to you, but more than likely it's because they want to have an integration with Pizza Hut. So you get this free TV, you sign an agreement saying that you will be on the hook for $1,000 if you damage it, or if you don't like have it logged onto a Wi-Fi at all times, and if you're not abiding by other parts of this agreement. Because like 2 years ago, just as a joke, I reserved a Telly because I just wanted to see, okay, what does this process look like? Am I crazy enough to actually get one of these into my home? It comes in with a built-in camera for video conferencing. It has all kinds of like Kinect like features. This is what Microsoft was hoping the Kinect would be. And this company has games that use the camera for like motion controls. It has all these bells and whistles, but it's not actually a smart TV. I found this out after the fact. You get a Android Fire Stick like dongle that you have to plug into the back of this TV, and you have like 2 remotes. They don't make it clear how you turn off the billboard screen. So some people were turning off the main TV, and the billboard was still on, which is just like Black Mirror nightmare fuel. And so that my reservation finally came back, and they were like, "Hey, your Telly's ready. If you want it, just finish in the app." And I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And it turned into this like 30-minute long data mining survey, just asking for every question under the sun about me. like whether anybody in my home was thinking about buying a car in the next 12 months, like all of these questions that were just geared towards, selling the data and then marketing my billboard in my home that they are just giving to me for free to advertisers. And
Mhm.
it's not something that we're going to pull the trigger on. These things are enormous. They weigh, like, if like you can imagine like a big flat screen, it doesn't weigh as much as like those giant old like rear projection high definition
Mhm.
TVs from back in the day, but this thing is apparently a bear. And when they deliver it to you, they don't like help you get it into your home. They like it doesn't come with, like, you have to like go jump through some hoops to get feet if you just want to put it on like a stand instead of mounting it. They'd prefer you mount it, I think, so that it would have optimum coverage for its camera. And
Sure.
they claim that, oh no, the camera's only on when you're using it, and there's like a shutter that you have no control over based on what I've seen. It opens and shuts on its own. And
Mhm.
some people have noticed that their camera is open when they aren't using things. And like the Reddit Telly community is so funny because it's like these people really are, they have the mindset of early adopters. They're trying to be evangelical about this product, but then every single thread just evolves into, oh, there's just something I don't like about this. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And one dude, one brave motherfucker, he did a full teardown of this thing. It's like, and if they ever found out, like, they'd get him for violating the terms of service, and charge him $1,000. But he tore this whole thing down so that he could put what are those things called? Those like Raspberry Pi type
Yep.
devices. He
Mhm.
soldered something onto the board for this thing so that the billboard screen would always be off, but that the signal, like the screen, would never actually be putting anything on it, but that it would still think it was being used and was on, so that he
Okay.
could manually turn it off and on. Because get this, if you want to manipulate a menu on the main TV, it shows up on the billboard. So they have like found ways to like force you to like not cover this thing up. Like if you want to
Mhm.
change the input, you have to look at that bottom screen. So yeah, don't sign up for this future, people. You can, like you pointed out in the document, it's like this time last year I was having to buy a new TV. Our TV
Mhm.
died the day of the Super Bowl last year, and there were so many deals at Best Buy at that point in time. Like, there's no reason to sell your soul to that fucker on the screen right now, who's like the CEO of the company. You don't have to do it. Just buy a regular TV. Like, there's
Yeah.
far less hoops, far less strings attached.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like other than I've watched a lot of people sort of try and justify, why they like this, like you said, and it really this just the only people this really seems to be aimed at are people that are desperate to try just like the newest tech, as soon as possible. And it's been funny watching like the internet communities melt down over the fact that they still haven't gotten the call basically that, they're up and like and people are getting so pissed they're like calling customer service asking when they're going to get it, and people are just like deleting their accounts because they've given up. And yeah, it's really something that has such a niche, like incredibly small, incredibly specific group of who would actually want this. It would have to be somebody who's frugal enough to not want to pay anything up front, yet very, very confident that they won't slip up and violate their terms
Yeah.
because, this is from what I've sort of, what I could dig up as far as, people who are a lot more knowledgeable on this stuff than me, is that this is basically a TV that's worth about like $300 that is connected to a soundbar that's worth about $100. And then you can't really place a value on the smaller screen because we've never had something like that. But essentially, if you slip up and violate the terms, you're incurring a charge that is way more than this thing is worth. And so yeah, just go and buy a TV. Shell out $300 for a TV that's just as good, or better yet, shell out $500
Yeah.
and get a TV that's way better than this. And so Yeah, it's kind of a confounding premise at this point.
Like that's the thing. I am intrigued by the form factor. I would
Mm,
really like I could dig the idea of having that second screen if I could control what was on it. Like if
yes.
I plug this into a computer, then I could have like my main screen being one thing and then having that bottom screen be like, like browser windows or like, like doing editing up top and then having like a YouTube playing on one, segment of that bottom panel. Like I'm intrigued by that form factor, but the only way to achieve that is to break it, hack it, myself, like that one
Yeah.
guy did. And because like it has the ability, like the based on the teardown this guy did, like that bottom panel internally has a USB-C input,
Mm,
that, but they're
okay.
just not really using it, like or like it's being piped into something different. So instead of being able to plug something in and have it show up there, it's something internal. Like it's the guts of the TV is what's determining what goes there. Which
Mm.
is the whole point. And yeah, and you can't have this thing be like your den TV either. Like that's against the rules. This has to be the primary TV in your home. And if they get the sense
Oh,
you
weird.
aren't using it enough, they'll ding you for it. Yeah,
Mm,
it's a trap. Don't fall for it.
yeah,
And
definitely.
it's the kind of nightmare situation that David Lynch would have no time for. Like he doesn't exist in this world, and he doesn't exist in ours anymore either. Unfortunately, I my reaction when I heard the news of his passing was, what the fuck, no. Like I
Mhm.
didn't realize that he was doing poorly, health wise. I didn't like. I guess I had missed the headline saying that he was retreating from being a filmmaker, but so I kind of got caught by surprise completely, and I was devastated for about a day. I literally found a YouTube video while I was at work that was just 10 hours of Twin Peaks music,
Mm.
like on loop or something like that. And I just listened to that while I was working because I was just so sad.
Yeah, it really really sucks because yeah, like you, I didn't realize he was this far along. I mean, I knew that he had emphysema, and I'm pretty sure that, I mean, my sort of pet theory is that he pretty much died at the point that he did die because of the wildfire smoke in LA.
I hadn't
And
considered that. That
yeah,
makes
like
sense.
they haven't said as much, but what they did say is that, shortly before his death, they did confirm that Lynch was evacuated and brought to his daughter's house, who also lives in LA. And so yeah, I mean, I think the writing's kind of on the wall there as far as like the air quality was really, really bad in LA. And Lynch had said himself that he couldn't walk across the room without like having like a coughing fit. And so, yeah, pretty sure that he pretty much died because of the wildfires, and which really sucks because who knows how. I mean, I don't know how much longer he would have lasted otherwise, but he definitely wasn't going to make any more, film or TV. That part of his life was kind of over, I think. But yeah, it really really sucks, and he had so many like unfinished projects too that he was always talking about, on social media or on his like YouTube videos and stuff. And I wonder if we'll ever see those in any extent, whether that be, I don't know, made by somebody else or, maybe like a cool like uh hardcover book that is released, sometime like the unfinished projects of David
Yeah.
Lynch. I don't know, but that could be cool. But yeah, it really really stinks. And yeah, I mean, you have here written in our doc what, as far as his films and TV go, what was your favorite? What stands out to you as maybe his best, or your personal favorite of his, or what?
Well, I guess I'll save what my ultimately, like the movie that I think is his best is the one I'll be talking about, subsequent to this. in the show here, but when I think of him, I think of Twin Peaks. Like when I was a little kid growing up, my parents talked about Twin Peaks all the time. Even though like it
Mhm.
wasn't on the air, we didn't have cable. We didn't even have we had no channels on our TV whatsoever growing up. And it wasn't until we could get Netflix discs that I could get exposed to it. But like there was just like a specter, like around, like his name and that show when I was really really young, and it was just always in my awareness. And as soon as I could see it for myself, like that I just loved that show, and I loved all the quirky little characters. I loved just all of the weird little nooks and crannies that are in every episode of that series. And it came to such a to me like I was truly satisfied when the return was released. I had been
Mhm.
waiting my whole life for that. You know what I mean? At
Yeah.
that point. And it just was such a maximalist version of what a return to that universe could have been. Like even Fire Walk with Me, like is worthwhile, and I enjoy that because it just kind of just speaks to it's like his proclivities are all over it, but there's something that is very accessible and absolutely subversive about it, which is ultimately what makes all of his works powerful. Is that anybody could sit down and like whether it's even if it is the straighter shit, the normie shit, like the Elephant Man or the Straight Story, there's still something about his sensibilities that elevate whatever it is he's doing, and all his little short films too, like the Rabbit People. Did you ever watch that? Or even like the when he's just yelling at a monkey, like what did Jack do? Like it didn't matter what the man touched. I was always ready to click on it.
Hmm.
If he was just a documentary subject, like in Keanu Reeves' movie or his documentary about um you know shooting on film versus digital, he has like a one little bit in it that's just talking about his experience making Inland Empire on digital. And Keanu Reeves is like, so David, do you think you're ever gonna work on film again? He's just like, you know what, Keanu, I don't think I ever will go back to film. And like those moments are just burned into my brain for some reason. Like on camera, off camera, he's had an indelible impact on so many people, including myself.
Hmm. Yeah, same. I also, I mean, we've already spoiled it a bit because of our thumbnail, but I won't say what my favorite of his is, but I I think yeah, I like a lot of his more, straight line stuff too, like the Elephant Man. I think Elephant Man is probably I mean, among his most accessible and probably his best like film in the traditional sense. But yeah, I also hold a special place for Twin Peaks. And um, one thing that people sort of forget is that when around the time Twin Peaks came out, David Lynch was like mainstream. Like there was like a time in the 90s when he was doing Twin Peaks, he was doing movies, he was doing like commercials,
Music
he was doing
videos, yeah.
yeah, music videos. Like he was like mainstream, and it's so like even to this day I can't even picture it. Like I can't even because I wasn't I mean I was around the time, I was barely a toddler, and so I don't remember any of that, but I can just barely even picture it in my mind of what it was like when David Lynch was mainstream and how people like reckoned with that, and how a lot of people reckoned with like their first real contact with like surrealism
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, and almost like a European sensibility, because David Lynch's films have way more of a European sensibility than an American one. And it's so hard for me to picture that, but it's true. And yeah, it's I don't think anything like that's ever going to really happen again because again, we've mentioned this before, but yeah, the monoculture has
It's
died,
dead,
and
yeah.
it's dead. And so yeah, nobody to that extent, it's never going to happen again. And so yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I mean, we'll get more into the specifics, but a little
Yeah,
bit later. But yeah,
because
rest in
like,
peace.
yeah, there's not another filmmaker I think working today that you could reasonably expect to show up in a Family Guy bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. What is that? He plays the bartender in the Cleveland show, doesn't he? And that's
yeah,
so weird. And to be in the his last, I mean, I'm pretty sure the last thing he ever did was doing the cameo in the Fablemans. That
yeah.
was like the last thing he ever did. And so it's so strange for him to just, his whole life he's been sort of the antithesis of mainstream film, and then the last thing he ever does is literally cameo as
John
Henry
Ford, yeah,
Ford
Henford,
or
not
John,
John.
yeah, Henry
Yeah,
Ford, and
no, Henry Ford's
in
the car guy. John Ford's the filmmaker.
John Ford's the filmmaker, yeah,
Yeah,
and so yeah, it's like the last thing he ever did. It's so strange. It's just had to be how Lynch went out, basically.
yeah. I'm still kind of reeling from the breadth of his career, and just like
Mhm.
something I have a soft spot for is his Dune movie. Like
Yeah.
everyone shits on it. I have seen like every version of that movie that exists, even like even the ones that he demanded an Alan Smithy for. He didn't want his name on them, and but like his whole approach to that universe had an impact. Like the Dune video games that Westwood Studios made in the 90s, they were all just literally just being like, we're just going to take his aesthetics and the way those movies looked and like how they made things like and how like his world building for that, and we're going to use that for our games. Did you ever play those? Like Dune
Never,
2000
no.
or in Emperor Battle for Dune? Those, because like they're like Command and Conquer games, so they have
Mhm.
FMV, like they have actors, like John Rhys Davies is playing like the Duke's like general, and things like that. And they were like, and they were fun because like it was like a continuation of that universe that everyone kind of, I don't know, people, I think people have reevaluated it since then, and some
Mhm.
people enjoy the Lynch movie more even than the new ones. I know that
Mhm.
my cousins were amongst them because I was like, no, the sci-fi series is so good, and they were like, it looks so cheesy. Like the one from the 80s is so much better, and I'm like, are you serious? But then again, like the way that he did the spacing guild was just
Yeah.
perfect in retrospect. And Villeneuve didn't even bother showing us the spacing guild, the bastard. So yeah, well, we're gonna miss you, Mr. Lynch. We're gonna be talking about you some more, but we kind of have to veer into the modern Twin Peaks show. I guess if we have
Yeah.
one, on our watch list after years of waiting. It's been, has it been a solid 2 years since
Three.
three? It's been three
It's been
fucking
three
years.
years.
That's
Yeah.
how long the show has been going, I guess, and that's how long it's been since we got to talk about Severance. If it's if the trailer even pops up, did I do this wrong? There it is. There we
There you
go.
go.
But the so for those that don't know, you probably should just watch this show. Get your 1 week Apple subscription, just binge that first season, get caught up into season two, and then be forced to re up you month to month so you can keep enjoying this thing. Because oh my god, like this is a show about the dream that everyone has at some point if they're working a job they hate, which is that you could just show up to work and just go to sleep and then like wake up and have all your work done and just go home and go about the rest of your life. But what are the implications of that? And
Mhm.
that first season ended on an amazing cliffhanger, and we have just been waiting patiently and willingly this whole time because it was so good. That writer strike fucked things up, but now we have this second season before us, and it literally picks up. Those first two episodes, the structure of it is very fascinating. It shows us the innies and then the outies, but what it reinforced to me thus far is just how masterfully they are managing their mystery box. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like it's not cloying like an Abrams one is. They are giving you the as the audience more information than the characters get. And for that reason, it's more tolerable to not have the answers you want, because at least you know more than the characters do, and you can tie and make connections episode to episode that they don't even get to make until the opportunity presents itself. But what have you gotten out of the first 4 episodes of the season?
Yeah, so I don't know. It's been a kind of a series of ups and downs for me these first four episodes because after season one, I was prepared to call season one of the greatest TV seasons of all time, and I just did that episode or that minisode on the golden age of TV, and I feel like this show is like the last thread that is like hanging off the ledge for like the golden age of TV because it's like there's like this and then there's like everything else is below this and I was really with it. I loved episode 1 of season 2 because we got a lot of payoffs for the finale of season 1. A lot of questions answered, a lot of new stuff, set up. And I don't know, 2 and 3, I was kind of like I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here. They are expanding the universe. Like this thing is just blowing wide open. And I don't know if I want that. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
still not sure I want that. There's a lot of stuff that they are setting up. And then now by episode 4 was like, okay, we're going to give you a lot of stuff to think about. We're going to give you some answers and we're going to give you some clues to some answers that you're going to have to start piecing things together because episode 4 is just absolutely crazy. And I don't know, like, if you have any, like, pet theories, I really would like to hear them if you do, but this is kind of where, this is kind of where I'm at right now, is basically, so Helena has basically been pretending to be Helly and there's some sort of program called the Glasgow Block that allows managers allows Milchek to essentially summon innies or outies at will,
mm-hmm.
whenever they want. And Kier Egan had a brother who's not actually his brother. I don't think there is a brother. It's basically Kier Egan has his basically his innie persona that they say is his brother,
Uh-huh.
and he invented it so that he could defeat his brother to become virtuous, to become basically their version of Joseph Smith, because this is fucking Mormonism. That's exactly what this is. That's what this is. And so it's all about clones, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
has to be clones. At this point, it's there's too many clues. The goats, um, Miss Casey is a clone of Mark's wife. The other versions of the MDR team that like shows up on that cliff in the last episode, and the goal. I mean, everything's leading to Kier being cloned, and then them putting his consciousness into that clone's body, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know. How do you feel about all that I just said?
I think you're pretty on track here. And
Okay.
like I clocked that that wasn't Heliar immediately. Like
Mhm.
especially after the second episode, it was like, oh, this is just too obvious now. The scene where she's watching the security footage and like basically learning like what am I gonna have to do. But I really appreciated how they also had Irving basically there's so many like little like body language things where he's like, oh, a night gardener, okay, but just like throughout it where it's like you can tell that yeah, he doesn't trust her, and it built up to that moment in episode 4 very well, I thought. And just like, yeah, like she she's just playing with these people, they don't even view them as people, that's the really fucked up thing. But like I don't know, there's almost kind of like a Get Out thing happening here. It's not just cloning. My theory is that the board itself is all of the consciousnesses of the former CEOs, all the Egans.
Mm.
And because like there's a line in the season 1 finale where James Egan says something about like you'll be there at my, I forget the word, but he has like it's like I'm so proud of you. You are gonna be able to replace me, and I'll be able to join the board, as it were. Because like the board are just, you never see them, you never hear them. They always have that proxy, speaking for them, and they're just a box that people talk to. And that's my suspicion. It's like, yeah, it's cloning, but they want to be able to truly perfect not just the body of a person, but their soul. It's not just your
Mm.
consciousness. It's like they are trying to fully recreate a person. And what the MDR team is doing is they are doing that. They are recombining the code of a person so that it reflects all the virtues that that Kier has championed and identified and such. And yeah, it's just like, and the possibilities for this season are kind of endless for like what we could see going forward. Well, hopefully we see more of the innies in the severed floor. I'm really interested in seeing that, but at the same time, it's like who is going to win? Like, because that's what season 4, episode 4, is kind of hinting at, is that there will be a final confrontation between these versions of themselves, and
Mm.
like, is which one's going to be able to exist going forward? Like, and
Mm.
I feel like the Mark S and Mark Scout, there's going to be there's going to be a confrontation of sorts where one of them is going to be the primary versus the other. Especially
Mm.
since he's done the reintegration procedure. And yeah, I can't wait to get more. At this point, especially after episode 4, I'm locked
Yeah.
in. I Yeah, episode to episode, it's not as fire as the first season was, but
Mhm.
I'm riding the wave that they're building.
Yeah, same. I mean, there really is only two ways this show could go. I mean, it's either like it all pays off or it doesn't. And unfortunately, we don't, this is one of those shows that probably we won't be able to make a final decision on until it's all out there. But yeah, I mean, this could easily end up really, really good or really, really bad. And there is like, I haven't talked about it in a long time, but the show on MGM Plus called From,
Yeah,
I've mentioned it on this before, and oh man, that show is like, that is the show that is exactly what the show does not want to become, because that show was so good in its first season, and then they just blew open the world, and like all this shit started happening like everywhere, and it got so complicated and too many questions, not enough answers. And I just really hope that doesn't happen to this. I don't think it's going to. I think that, Ben Stiller has a really good head on his shoulders as far as being a director goes. Surprisingly, his stuff has been really, really great that he's done behind the camera. And same with Dan Erickson, the main writer, the creator. And so I think they have a handle on it. And Dan Erickson has said as much in interviews that he has the ending's written. He knows what it's going to be.
that's
He knows
good.
where this is leading. It's not a lost situation where they're like trying to scramble to come up with something. And so, yeah, really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again when the season ends.
Because I didn't pick up on this until I rewatched it. But this is like an alternate universe. They
Mhm.
live in a state that hasn't really been identified apart from its abbreviation, but no one knows what it means. Like we don't know what it stands for.
Mhm.
And the weird technology that they have going on, like it seems like it's the current day, but there's just something that's off about it. And yeah, it's the
All the
world,
cars are old.
all the cars are
Like,
old.
have you ever noticed that? Like, all the cars that everyone drives are like beaters from like the 80s or the 90s, which I always find really weird.
Even the rich people, like
Hmm.
the Egans, are in these like really old, like, executive class vehicles, from the 80s and
Hmm.
90s that just don't look plush enough. And and the weird relationship with food,
Yeah.
especially like they have that dinner party in season 1, but yeah, there's just something going on with this universe that isn't right. And
Hmm.
it is as though like a Scientology cult or a Mormon cult has become the most powerful force in the world, and everyone is just kind of trapped in this existence with them. But yeah, what's their end game? Like what do they want to do to the whole population of the planet, versus just their employees? It's like we're just gonna have to wait and see and just keep enjoying it. I did love the scene where Milchek is gifted his inclusive recanonization paintings, because that was such I was like, holy crap, they're actually saying that. Good for them. Just the empty corporate wokeness of it all. It's
Yeah.
like they're just saying what they expect their employees to appreciate, but you could really tell in that interaction. I can't remember the character's name. The executive with the earpiece who was
Hmm.
meeting with them, like they both had this like moment of understanding of, yeah, isn't this fucked up?
Yeah. Yeah, he's killing it. Milchick's on another level this season, and I mean, I love all the new additions to the cast too. Like even like the smaller ones, like Bob Balaban and Alicia Shawkat, and
For like the
um,
episode that they were in there for. Like do you think we're gonna see them again?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know like why they would show up again. I think their sort of little bit has been like their role has been performed, I think, as far as what they were there for. And so, I mean, the only way I could see them showing up again is if like the old team runs into the new team like in the building
Mm.
somehow. I guess I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're all really really great, and yeah, really really can't wait to see what happens. Oh, also the guy that they I don't know the actor's name, but I think he's only in like the first and second episode, but the other executive, like that big fat
Yeah, with
guy
the
with the
beard.
beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, really really good casting there. I've seen that guy in other stuff too, and he's always whenever he shows up, he's just one of those great like character actors.
And that's what populates a lot of this cast. And they
Mhm.
got Christopher Walken to come back for like literally one shot so far this season,
Yeah.
and I hopefully we get to see more of him.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the and I do want to comment though, the YouTube community that exists around this show is unhinged, in the sense that they
Mhm.
are like none of them have an original thought in their head, because I've listened to a lot of their videos, and apart from Nautilus files, the majority of them are literally just regurgitating everyone. Like they're all just like circular, like exchanging ideas and then just like
Mhm.
passing it off to their audiences as though it's their own. And
As far as what, like theories or
yeah, because like a lot of them are
okay.
just like so off base and like going in directions that make no sense, or like going like
Mhm.
you're thinking way too hard about this. You know what I mean? And like and they all act so passionate about ideas that aren't theirs. You know what I mean? Like, and they're not even, I can't even like really get into them because it's like I hear them and I'm like, well, that's dumb. Why are you even
Mhm.
wasting air, theorizing about that? Like calm down. Like,
Oh yeah, this no, it's a given that this is gonna happen. I don't know if you remember, like, oh my God, I don't even want to like. Do you remember like some of the theories that people had for like True Detective season one
oh
when that
God,
was on?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just like like spaghetti monsters and just fucking weird ass shit. And yeah, this it's bound to happen.
But I guess like that just kind of speaks to the balancing act that they're working on right now, which is giving you a lot to think about without like making you feel like they're just making it up as they go along. You know, like
Hmm.
everything seems very intentional, but much like, you know, in a Kubrickian sense, they're applying way too much meaning to things that by any other estimation are innocuous. You know, like what do you like? There's this whole like theory out there right now that Mark is a secret Egan, that he
Okay.
is a descendant of the brother that was killed in the cave, and so he's
Okay.
like this like dark half to the half that Helly represents, and they're related, and oh, and they're having sex, and
Ugh.
oh, like you know, like they're gonna have a weird baby now, and it's like, calm the fuck down. Like, I feel like we are gonna get a scene where Helena has to talk to Mark S and be like, "Hey, I had sex with your innie," you know, like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but other than that, like I don't know where they're getting their ideas from. Like they're
Yeah.
just
That.
spinning their wheels.
Yeah. It's all self-insertion and fangirling probably.
What is the deal with Miss Huang?
You know, I think she's just there. Like I think she's just like a basically a replacement for Milchek. I mean, she's the Milchek role now.
But she's a
And
child. Like how does she wind up working a full-time job on a severed floor? Is this an internship? You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you know, going back to what you were saying about dumb theories, I know that like the going theory right now is that it's Mark's child.
Oh,
It's Miss Casey's and Mark's like not like real child, but like Egan created a child. I don't know. That's the theory. That's the going theory though right now. Just because she's Asian, basically. I don't think there's anything else behind that theory. But yeah, it's stupid.
wow.
Yeah.
This is the latest film from Justin Kurzel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
what's the I guess the prognosis on this?
Yeah, so this is the order. The film from last year about the dramatization of the white supremacist group from the 80s that was sort of, they committed a series of bank robberies to essentially raise money for their attempt at a government coup. And I wanted to mention this. I don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but I did want to mention it because this was one of those weird movies that only a couple of critics really, really championed from last year. And I wanted to, you know, kind of lay eyes on it myself because I wanted to see what this was all about. And I don't know. I would call this movie slightly above average. It reminds me more of like it probably should have been a mini series, like a HBO or a Hulu, you know, crime mini series rather than a movie. You know, it really reminded me of that Hulu miniseries with Andrew Garfield, Under the Banner of Heaven. Very, very similar things going on in this, and yeah, I like all the stuff they're doing in this. I mean, it's a pretty well done sort of historical crime thriller, and you know all the stuff that they're doing between Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult. Jude Law plays like the main cop detective who is kind of going after this white supremacist group, and Nicholas Hoult plays the leader of the group, and he's really, you know, surprisingly charming and charismatic as that leader. But the two of them, they only share like three very short scenes in the entire movie, and I think that's something that you can do well. You know, this idea that these two characters have been hunting each other for the entire film, and then at the end they sort of end up in the same place at the same time to square off, sort of like Day of the Jackal,
Hmm.
if anything. But I don't know, it's just not done very well in this movie, and it's just kind of a middle of the road movie, which is a rare thing for Justin Kurzel because usually his movies are really good or they really suck. And I'm just sort of struggling to understand why a lot of critics, or I shouldn't say a lot, why a very specific few critics tried to prop this thing up last year so much, but it was fine. And that's really all I'm willing to go to bat for it for insane. And so, yeah, I mean, watch it when it's streaming for free. Don't spend any money on this thing, I would say, is kind of where I would leave it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much does it cost to video on demand this?
I think it's like a $5 rental right now. So nothing
Okay.
nothing too huge,
If
but
you're really invested, that might be worth it. It's a far cry from paying $30 to see Moana 2 in the comfort of your home. I've had to delicately avoid doing that myself as of late. But yeah, I guess I'll wait and see on this one, just
yeah.
because I am familiar with the true story, but you know, I'm not quite sold either. But now it's time
Mhm.
to, I guess, our main event here, where we're gonna get into our picks for our favorite David Lynch films, and mine is Blue Velvet, because this is apart from Twin Peaks, this was the first David Lynch bit of content that I ever got to see. I I read the like an early like draft of the script to this before I saw it, because my parents wouldn't let me get it on our Netflix queue for a really long time, because they just knew, oh, it's too mature, it's dark, there's bad things in it. And there's something that was cut from the final product that was in the script, where the main character, played by Kyle MacLachlan, is at like a college dance, and he's like voyeuristically watching a couple who are at the dance in a the guy basically is sexually assaulting his date because he wanted to get laid at the dance. Then he just sit backs and watches it. And I always wondered, apart from, like how fucked up that moment would be to have in the movie, and how unsympathetic it would make the hero of the story. And that's probably why, that's not in there. Because at its core, what this is David Lynch doing a Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew story about a young person putting themselves in a situation where they really shouldn't be. It's like it's beyond them. They might be having fun, like playing detective, but when you're putting yourself in danger, and like what is the allure of that? And the there's so much about this movie that stays with a person, obviously, and as far as his filmography goes, this was his big recovery. He came on the scene with Eraserhead and the Elephant Man, and he had some juice, and then he got squeezed over Dune. He was also considered to direct Return of the Jedi at one point. Before he wound up making this movie. And this movie saved his career because it really allowed him to become, the filmmaker that he is and that we know him to be. This is how primetime Lynch was created, essentially. And yeah, weird and mesmerizing, as The Guardian put it, on some kind of re-release, I'm sure. But what makes this movie, work is, is its subversiveness. It's giving you, a kind of it feels timeless. I can't even really clock what year this story is supposed to be taking place in. Is it the
Mhm.
80s? Is it the 60s or the 50s? It's kind of hard to tell. Everyone's driving a classic car or an older vehicle, and and there's just not a lot of like pop culture apart from the music, and it's not of the era. And that just makes the whole experience uncanny, and somewhat dreamlike, and and surreal, obviously. But yeah, like there's moments from this I can never forget, and and haunt me, in the back of my head, and that's why I come back to this movie a lot. And like this is the Lynch movie I've probably seen the most, and
Mhm.
I get a little bit more out of it every time, which is the joy of watching his movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean this is only the second time I've actually seen this. And the last time I saw it was I was very young and I would describe this as like Lynch before he went full Lynch, I guess,
Yeah,
because it's pretty followable, I think, in my opinion. You know, as far as like you could watch it more than once, and I'm sure it probably gets better when you watch it more than once, but I think I got everything, I needed to get out of it this time, the second time I had seen it. And, you know, I you kind of distilled what you think the movie is about when in your intro, and for me, to be very reductive about it, I would say this is about the collision of like polite society with like the seedy underbelly that's like just under the surface where we have all these scenes of like Americana, like the fucking firemen like
yeah, yeah.
waving on the thing and people like watering their yards and just these beautiful like suburbs, these upper middle class suburbs. And then it's just like, and then like even the cop's way in over his head, the detective, Sandy's father. And it's colliding with this shitty, like warehousey area of town where there's like, prostitutes and seedy clubs and there's crime going on, and it's really interesting in that way because it's not like large city crime. This
Yeah.
is like I don't even know how many people probably live in this town that this is set in. Lumberton, I think it's called, is maybe at most 10,000 people, and so it's like small town crime. And yeah, it's a sleuth movie, but it just has those weird Lynch flourishes that make it something special. And I'm one thing going into this, I want to know if you think, in your personal opinion, if there's anything supernatural going on in this movie or not.
I don't think so.
No?
I think
Okay.
it's pretty straightforward in that respect. Um, the if there might be something transcendentalist about it, just in like the string theory of reality. It's like something drew him into this world, and it happened for a reason. That's like the hero's journey part of it. Like you could probably mine that quite a bit. But yeah, I don't think it's as overt as like Twin Peaks with the Black Lodge and and
Mm.
everything like that. But yeah, the seedy underbelly, of a small town that was unique at the time. We didn't like admitting that small towns could be just as depraved and evil, as a big city could be. People associated this kind of darkness with Manhattan or Los Angeles, but here it is in little old Lumberton, and
Mhm.
yeah, what kind of supernatural elements did you pick up on?
Well, I still, I mean, to be honest with you, because I really try. You had mentioned earlier that a lot of people just take other people's opinions on things, and there's so much out there for Lynch as far as like you could go to YouTube right now and get like a 3 hour like video about here's exactly what this movie is about, and you could just take that opinion if you want.
Yeah,
And I really try to not do that with both this movie and Mulholland Drive. I want to go in with some originality, but the things that still sort of confound me about this movie are the shots of the bugs underground at the
mm,
beginning
okay.
and the candle. What are those two things in your estimation? Like why are those there? What's the significance of them? I mean, I guess I sort of understand the bugs and how they tie into the bird at the end, but yeah, what's behind that?
God, I am blanking on the candle.
Oh, it's the like when Dennis Hopper, his first scene when he shows up and he's like making the
Uh,
apartment all like right before he
oh yeah.
before he rapes her, and he lights the candle and it's like, I don't know, Lynch focuses on the candle a lot in that scene, and then it gets blown out, and then the candle keeps showing up multiple times throughout the movie in other scenes that seemingly have nothing to do
Oh,
with the candle, you
yeah.
know.
And because I cheated and asked Google AI Blue Velvet Candle movie, uh, the I guess it's one interpretation is that it's a symbol is it symbolizes his morality, and in that
Okay.
initial scene the flame of his morality gets snuffed out, and then the question I guess becomes when does the flame return, I
Mm,
suppose. Well,
okay.
are you
Yeah, I
shaking
guess
that?
that definitely makes sense because yeah, it does seem to pop up again in scenes where, scenes that are very heightened, scenes where there's a lot of action going on, scenes where there's a lot of
Yeah.
conflict going on. So that totally makes sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really what makes this movie special is, you just kind of you have to interpret it in the way that only you can, and I think doing it any other way would be a disservice. There's that really famous interview with Lynch. I can't remember what movie he's talking about, but the interviewer asks him, like, can you please expand on this thing in your movie? And he just goes, no. And he's always maintained throughout his life or that he wants people to interpret the movies in the way that they see them. And he's not going to just sit there in an interview with Charlie Rose or something and just explain the shit out of his films like some directors would. Or say like, this is how I felt at this time and this is why I put this in the movie. And so, yeah, it really is up to the audience to
Yeah.
kind of interpret those things. And yeah, it's really cool in that way.
And it's funny you say that because your selection he literally gives you like a guidepost to understanding it on like in the
Mhm.
DVD of the movie from what I recall, but we'll get to that. And cuz yeah, and that's the thing. Like you can just take what's happening here at face value like Roger Ebert did and just be absolutely disgusted by Blue Velvet. Like he abhorred this film and it made him hate Lynch as a filmmaker and think he was a monster for what he did to Isabella Rossellini. But you're not seeing the forest for the trees there,
Mhm.
like yeah, something awful is being done to this woman, but that's the point. And like
Mhm.
and what needs to happen to address the evil that is doing it to her. The
Mhm.
like it has such an uplifting ending, for a
Yeah.
Lynch movie, and I think that like that's ultimately is if there's a point to it, it's that no matter what darkness a person may have within them, like the we are drawn to good for the most part, and we need to, I guess, like at least champion the people who will chase the good even if it puts them in danger. It's like there's heroism in this, even though he's basically just doing this because he's bored and curious and he's stuck at home. Like
Mhm.
the, there's more to it, and it's a shame to just get reductive because there's violence or like repugnant nasty shit happening because yeah, like that's just kind of like you watch a Lynch movie to be shocked out of your system a little bit. I think like that's
Mhm.
the best case scenario, and I yeah, I guess I don't really have much more to add, but yeah, I do think that without this movie, we would not have the David Lynch we know today. If Dino De Laurentiis had been like, I know Dune was a disaster, but let's work with you again.
Well, yeah, because he had, from what I remember, didn't he sign like a three-picture deal with Laurentis? And this was picture number two, I
Yeah.
believe, was. And so yeah, it was like he had to come up with something, or he had to come up with a hit. And yeah, I'm so glad he did. Yeah. Before we do move off the movie, I do want to
Yeah.
say like I, I'd be remiss to not mention Dennis Hopper
Oh yeah.
because for me, like This movie, I ended up really liking this, especially watching it as like a full-fledged adult now for the first time. But I think at the beginning, the movie is a bit anemic until Hopper shows up. And then the second that Dennis Hopper shows up, it's just like it's crazy, it's nuts, and you're just sort of locked in for the rest of the movie. And just all of his incredible lines, timeless lines at this point, like Heineken, fuck that shit, Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's so just incredible. And then
mommy.
yeah, yeah, that's so just yeah, amazing.
The man should have gotten a fucking Oscar for this movie.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what he was nominated for? Hoosiers. The same year.
Really?
Those performances came out the same year, and he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for fucking Hoosiers. Instead of this.
I didn't know that. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other best part of this movie for me, the other guy who like just runs with the role, fucking Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
When he shows up as like I don't know what, I still don't understand exactly what he is. I think he's a gay pimp, right? I mean, that's what, and all of those women in that weird like room are like his fat like prostitutes, his fat old prostitutes is kind of what I assume. But yeah, he is so great in that one scene. It just incredible.
His lip syncing, like it's iconic. It's like, and when I see him in other movies, I'm always like, oh hey, it's that guy.
Yeah, just amazing. And I'm so glad I'm so glad you picked this movie. I'm so glad that I got to watch it again, because I didn't get it when I was a kid. I really don't think I get it, and that is something else that is going to pop up when we talk about our next movie.
Yeah, oh, most definitely. Yeah, because transitioning on, like, would you say this is his like last, like cinema masterpiece?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Inland Empire is a mess of a movie. I don't like it. It was actually the first David Lynch movie I watched.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What an experience.
But yeah, this is probably his masterpiece and his last great movie. Yeah.
Why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So my movie that I chose was Mulholland Drive. And to me, I mean, first, I got to just say a little bit about Lynch, the man. I mean, we eulogized him a bit in our news, but like, he really is a one of one, and his ascendancy and eventual reverence that he gained from Hollywood, it's something it's never going to happen again, especially to such an impenetrable, crotchety filmmaker. And Lynch inspired a verb, Lynchian. We say Lynchian now to describe things, and like, when is that ever going to happen either? There's always going to be a revolving door of talented filmmakers that sort of graduate from the schools of their predecessors. For every Robert Altman, there's a Paul Thomas Anderson. For every Steven Spielberg, there's a J.J. Abrams. But Lynch is like his own thing, and he does have some influences, but he turned his career into the career of David Lynch, inspired by where he grew up, inspired by his surroundings, inspired by the people that he surrounded himself with, not really so much inspired by a lot of other filmmakers. And it's funny that we describe things as Lynchian now, because everyone knows what that means, even if they can't quite quantify it. And, people who are inspired by him, Ari Aster calls some of his work Lynchian. People that are contemporaries to Lynch sort of get the label thrown on their movies, whether they want it or not. And it's so funny to watch interviews with like Guy Maddin, where people will describe Guy Maddin's stuff as Lynchian, and he's like, no, don't describe my stuff like that. And but yeah, with Mulholland Drive, Lynch really hit that sweet spot with his sensibilities, as far as it's not as incomprehensibly obtuse as Inland Empire, nor is it lacking in his like stylistic compulsions like something like The Straight Story or Elephant Man. And Mulholland Drive is that movie that I have seen the most now of Lynch's movies. Starting in my late teens, I did not understand it at all, and in the two times since, that I've watched it, it just sort of has revealed its inner machinations, and it's coalesced, it's cohered in a way that not a lot of things do. I think a lot of times people really bandy about the phrase like, oh, this is something you have to watch two or three times to really get it. But it really sort of makes sense with this movie. And it's a movie about dreams, about fantasies, about nightmares, and their collision with reality. And only the way that Lynch could do it. And so, yeah, love this movie. And yeah, we'll talk more about it. But yeah, what do you think of Mulholland Drive, Chuck?
Well, much like you, I found it completely incomprehensible as a kid. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is going on? Like throughout it, like what is the point of the diner scene where like they find that like disheveled monstrous woman behind it? Like what the fuck is going on there? And
Mhm.
because like yeah, I saw this when I was way too young, didn't understand it, didn't pick it back up again until I was older, and yeah, it's a confounding experience, but it all should become clear by the end. And
Mhm.
because there's kind of like two halves to this movie in terms of interpreting it. Like you, the first half of the movie, you can unlock the puzzle box that is this movie. If you pay enough attention and internalize the experience, but you shouldn't take, like, I don't know, do people sometimes like you take everything that's happening on screen too literally? You know what I mean? Like I think that might be part of the problem, especially when I was younger. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was trying to, like I was treating it linearly when you kind of just have to treat it like a spiraling nightmare. You know,
Mhm.
and if, that eventually the character wakes up from, and
Mhm.
but you can understand what has occurred based on everything that you've experienced as you've watched it. And it's it's and that's something I guess I'm unclear on. This was originally supposed to be like a pilot for a TV show, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was, yeah, originally a pilot for like a TV show about LA, I guess, and then he sort of condensed it down into, yeah, this movie, a 2.5 hour movie, and it kind of ended up being more about dreams, yeah, dreams and interpreting them and nightmares, and from what I understand, it was way more having to do with like LA, and like we said about Blue Velvet, sort of like the seedy underbelly of LA, and it sort of evolved into something way more about dreams and waking nightmares and, yeah, just craziness.
And what would, I guess, what would, if you were gonna to say it yourself, plainly, what is going on in this movie?
So yeah, I mean basically the first half is the Diane, Betty Diane, it's kind of two people um dreaming of the life that she wishes she had. And then the second half is what actually is real life, or what actually happened. And essentially in the dream, Diane, she comes to Hollywood. She has her supportive parents. She has this aunt who lets her stay at this beautiful apartment. She falls in love with Rita. And in fact, I mean, Rita losing her memory is essentially used by Diane's like dream consciousness as like a reset button, like a reset
Yeah,
switch. She's like, okay, this is what I'm going to use to reset my relationship with this woman. And even the guy that Rita slash Camille fell in love with in the real world is painted in Diane's dream as having a shitty life. His wife is cheating on him with Billy Ray Cyrus, and
that's
so he has
right.
a shitty life. and everything is going, it's falling, it's coming up aces basically for Diane. And then, the other part is what actually happened. And what actually happened was, she came to Hollywood. Her parents weren't as supportive. In fact, they were sort of actively mocking her. And the person that she wanted to fall in love with marries this douchebag director. She hires a hitman to kill Camille. And, he follows through with it. And she eventually, is overcome with grief and kills herself. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. So yeah, anything there that strikes you as anything you disagree with or anything
No.
you
No,
want to expand on?
that's exactly that's what the movie's about.
Yeah. So what do you think because there is still, I mean, despite the fact that, people have sort of figured out what it's about, but there's still, just like Blue Velvet with the candle, there are still things people argue about. So like in that vein, what do you think, what is the box? What is the blue box with the key?
It's the truth, I think.
Mm.
It's because once they open the box, the dream collapses, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
and they both like pop out of existence. And it's the deep dark secret that you shut up inside yourself, that you don't that you don't want to admit, or you don't want to confront. That's
Mm-hmm.
my feeling
Yeah.
on it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's probably right along there. I mean, it's something, it's either that, or it's either like the thing that once open Pandora's box,
Yeah.
I guess. Once it's opened, it starts, the collapsing of the dream. It starts the beginning of the end, because the thing that actually ends the dream, I guess, is the sort of that weird musical performance, and Silencio,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the cowboy. I mean, the cowboy literally says, like, what is it? It's like, all right, pretty lady, time to wake up, or whatever. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that's literally when she wakes up. And so, yeah, what do you, another thing, that's another thing though. The cowboy, what do you make of the cowboy? What is his role in all this?
Because he's the same guy that's like talking to the director, right? Or is that a different
Yeah,
guy?
he shows up in the party, during the party scene, because, he has that line with Justin Theroux's character where he's like, I show up one more time, and, basically it's good. It's a good thing I show up two more times, and, we're going to have a problem. And
Yeah.
he does show up two times. But yeah, so you basically think, is he basically the guy, or is he basically the manifestation of, like, trying to write everything, or like trying to, I don't know how to phrase it. He's basically the guiding hand, essentially. Is that what it is, or
Yeah,
what?
because we do have to compartmentalize it, between
Mm-hmm.
each reality, and what does he represent in them. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because he's God, I watched this like last week, and for some reason it didn't stick with me. But he's trying to basically bully the director into abiding by the request to cast a particular actress in his movie, and in the real world that winds like, God, I'm trying to keep all the names straight. The real Rita is the actress that they're telling him to cast in it, right?
Yeah, Camille.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you're right on there. I mean, it's because he's the cowboy. I don't know if this is ever explicitly stated, but the cowboy is essentially working on behalf of the man in the room, the guy from Twin Peaks, the little person from Twin Peaks. He's essentially working on behalf of that guy, because that guy's like the real, like, guiding hand. That's the guy who's like, okay, this is how we're gonna do things.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Anyways.
the power broker of
Yeah.
Hollywood. Yeah. Yeah, because
Mhm.
at the same time, this is a commentary on the industry to an extent too, if
Oh
we
yeah.
want to interpret it that way. And yeah, because he's the hatchet man, for
Mhm.
the powers that be. Even if the real power that be is the main character's mind, their dream writer, I guess, as it were.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, I love the I definitely think you're right on there as far as the commentary on the industry or on Hollywood itself, because there are remnants of that, of what I assume was scenes that were more important when this was a TV series, more important when this was more about Hollywood. And the in that vein, I love the scene where the audition scene and how like just how strange it is and how like creepy it is, and then she knocks it out of the park. And yeah, that's one of the best scenes of the movie, and I have to assume that that scene was a little more important when this was a TV series about Hollywood, about
Yeah,
LA.
yeah,
Yeah.
golly, because I think it's kind of strange that this was going to be a TV show, just because of the explicit lesbian sex that happens in it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because
oh definitely.
like my the first time I ever heard about this movie, I honestly was on a
Mhm.
VH1 top 40 list of like the steamiest movie scenes, and because this was like in the top 5 of it or something like that, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Never heard of this
Mhm.
movie. And I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
it's funny that it's known, or it was known more for, yeah, like those, the sex scenes. And I'm sure, this was on like the um God, uh what Judd Apatow movie is it where they like work for like MrSkin.com? I think it might be Knocked Up,
knocked
where
up.
they all, yeah, they
They
work
were
for.
creating their own version of Mr.
Oh,
Skin. That's what it
yeah, that's
was.
right.
Yeah.
And yeah, this, I think that this movie is even named drop in that film. And so yeah, this movie, it's funny that this was more known for that than, the nude scenes back then, when that stuff was a little more hard to come by.
God,
Um,
what weird websites we used to have. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, I'm satiated as far as this movie's concerned. I think we've done it justice, unless there's anything else that you wanted to mention.
People should just watch these. Just
Yes.
get
Mhm.
the whole Lynch collection. Because I'm sure we're going to be getting a massive legacy project from some distributor in the next few years.
Mhm.
With restorations and coffee table books. And if you haven't experienced Lynch before, do it. Maybe don't start with Eraserhead, but maybe you should. I don't know. I also rewatched that, and
Okay.
I almost picked that instead of Blue Velvet just because I thought we might as well go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's so long. Farewell. Thanks for all the fish, Mr. Lynch. And we're gonna have coffee and cherry pie in your honor whenever we have it. I think for the foreseeable future. Moving on to the mentionables. You took was this a surprise trip to?
Well, it's I got the tickets about a month ago, so it was a little last minute, but
You went to
yeah.
a
So I
Royal Rumble in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indianapolis, because surprisingly, I didn't even know this, but surprisingly, not too far from where I'm at right now. About an 8-hour drive, so it's not too bad. And so, and the plane ride is even less, so it's not, it's just a jaunt. It's a 2-hour plane ride, 8-hour car trip. I was like, and I never knew that, so I was like, let's do it. I've been getting more into um dipping my toe back into wrestling, very very slightly. And but this was all, even when I wasn't in a like wrestling phase of my life, this was always something that I've been wanting to do, going to one of these big events, whether it be the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, something like that. And I looked at WrestleMania tickets and I was like, nope, can't afford that. And so I was like, I got the tickets for the Royal Rumble. And yeah, this was really fun. Um, Indianapolis, I'm not going to say a lot of good things about it because I think Indianapolis is a pretty ugly city. So sorry to any Indianapolis people out there, but yeah, you have quite an ugly city on your hands there. But otherwise, this was really fun. It was my first wrestling event at all, and so I learned a lot of stuff. I learned basically that, you know, the best seat that you can have when you're watching wrestling is at home. Like it's not going to get any better than that. Those cameras are right up in the face of the wrestlers. You can hear what they're saying. You go to a wrestling event live because you want the experience of seeing it with a crowd, and that's why you go. You don't go to get, the right up close with the wrestlers because you're probably, unless you're in like the first like 5 rows, you're going to be watching them on the big jumbotrons in the stadium because this was at the place where the Colts play.
Yeah.
And so even if you're close, you're still far away. And so I learned that, but it was really fun. I mean, the crowd is, you literally are standing up every 2 minutes because a new person is coming out. If people don't know, the Royal Rumble is 30 wrestlers in the ring, not all at the same time, but at various intervals. And so every 2 minutes, a new wrestler is coming out. You don't know who it's going to be. And that's part of why you go to something like this. And so, yeah, it was very fun. Got to see John Cena, got to see Roman Reigns, got to see fucking Logan Paul. And that was a fun experience to be among a crowd of 70,000 people booing Logan Paul. And so yeah, it was really, really fun. And I hope to do it again because SummerSlam is coming to
Oh,
Minneapolis
hell yeah.
next summer. Yeah. Summer 2026. SummerSlam is coming to Minneapolis. So I hope to do it again.
I think you're right on about these kinds of events best being watched at home. I've been to a UFC event, and we like honestly fairly close to the octagon, but you're at a weird angle, and
Yeah.
you can't see everything very well. And yeah, you're just watching a screen anyway. You might as well do it at home unless you just want to be a part of the energy. Did you see any
Mhm.
cool signs? Was there anything really funny?
Well, one of the best things was, are you familiar with oh God, I'm forgetting his name now, but the guy who's basically like the new Kurt Angle?
No, I guess I'm not.
Okay, there's this wrestler, God, what is his fucking name? I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but anyways, he's essentially the new Kurt Angle. And that's his shtick. And everybody hates him because of that. And so when he came out, uh, in his place in the Royal Rumble, the chant started in the stadium of Timu Angle, Timu Angle, and so that was probably the best. That was probably the best, like, thing in that regard as far as that goes. It was really, really fun, and yeah, there was a lot of really, really good signs. I'm kind of blanking on them now, but stuff to the effect of like, like Roman Reigns eats like the head off of babies, or stuff like that. Just like the stuff that you have to sneak in, the
Yeah.
signs that you have to fold up like 30 times so that you can fit it in your jacket pocket and hope that the security guards don't catch it, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, because back in my youth, that was half the fun of watching wrestling, was just seeing what a kind of unhinged bullshit was going to be thrown, up and would make it onto TV. That
Mhm.
was part of what made the whole wrestling experience fun, and the crowd participation aspect of it fun.
Mhm.
Um, I wish that with my mentionable, I could be there in person for it, so that I could heckle and do stuff like that. Because here in North Dakota, we only have our lawmakers get together every 2 years, so it's always a big deal when they do, and it always takes forever. There is our beautiful skyscraper Capitol building and all its brutalist Art Deco glory. If you, it's kind of pretty on the inside if you've never been there, but our lawmakers are unhinged. That's the word of the day, is unhinged. They are doing all kinds of weird stuff. I'm having to, think about it and write about it. We're trying to, make declarations that Jesus is Lord, and and classifying, reclassifying what murder is, so that abortion, is ironcladly illegal. But in my capacity as a reporter, I got to be a part of the process, because in the flurry of bills that it came in initially, I noticed, they're looking to schedule kratom as a Schedule One substance, like fentanyl or cocaine or all those kinds of things. Do you know what kratom
Mm.
is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we actually, brought it one time to one of those jaunts that we had to your lake thing.
Oh, really? Yeah. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. Because
Hmm.
yeah, it's everywhere. It's blown up. I remember buying kratom, like over the internet from sketchy people. Like back like in
Mm.
2019 when I was quitting cannabis. I was like, this will be my alternative, and I was
Mm.
capsulizing it myself and everything. Yeah, and so but right now you can't go into a gas station or a head shop in this country without seeing it.
Mm.
And that has made like the addiction treatment industry in North Dakota kind of scared, and they were like, hey, we're going to like ask our local legislator to schedule this bill so that it'll be made illegal. And
Mm.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, I've researched it enough to know that there's a ton of people who use it in lieu of opioids and other things like that. And, there are people who just enjoy it recreationally as a stimulant, not as for its pain killing aspects. And I was like, well, I kind of just want to, see if, the American Kratom Association is aware that they've done this. So I sent an email to them, and their policy guy got a hold of me, and I interviewed him for a story. I talked to the sponsors of the bill who wanted, for their reasons on it. And then this guy from the American Kratom Association flew to Bismarck and gave testimony and said, instead of scheduling it, you should regulate it. Here's our template legislation for you guys to consider. And
Mm.
instead, that's what's happening, because I sounded the alarm. God damn it! And yeah, and yeah, that was kind of fun, I guess, to at least know that I can like pull a lever and see something occur down there in Bismarck, because strangely enough, they have the most like high tech and transparent way of doing it, and I'm sure most other states do it this way too. But like every single committee room has a camera in it and has a live feed running all day long, so you can like go through and like pull up exact testimony from specific people and hear what they said for or against something. And every single vote is recorded and live streamed, and it's just very accessible. And I'm still shocked that we have a system as modern as that in a state like ours,
Mm.
because we're so regressive and slow to progress on certain things. But it's like we're at least making it so you can know how they're screwing you,
Mm.
and yeah, so that was fun. I got to save kratom in North Dakota. I will take credit for that.
It sounds like it. Yeah, it's interesting because I just saw a local news story the other day that was talking just about this, about how, it's something you have to, like anything, do in moderation.
Yeah.
And this we had a story on our local news about this woman who has sort of made it her life's work to get kratom illegal because her sister died from like very, very, very bad like blood toxicity from it, because she was doing like 50 to 70 grams a day or something like
Jesus.
that, and
Yeah.
it was fucking crazy. And so yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, these are sort of edge cases, I think, and they sell a lot worse stuff at head shops, like fucking, if you've ever heard of Sleepwalker, do you know what that is?
No, is it
uh
like Galaxy Gas?
it's trucker meth
Oh
basically.
God.
And so yeah, I mean, it's so much more worse for you, but yeah, like anything in moderation. And so yeah, it's interesting that that came up there, because I've been seeing a lot a lot more movement on that front too, and in
Yeah.
these parts also. And so, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I guess like if Minnesota is gonna follow North Dakota's lead, which is a rare thing, it never happens.
Hmm.
The whole point of the regulation is, is just to make sure there's no adulterants in the product. It's kind of like having, like those laws in pot states, where it's like there is a lab ensuring that your product has only what it says it has, whether it's, the Mitragena speciosa, the compound, the alkaloid, and, in the right amounts as advertised, and that you're also not getting weird shit in there. Like in Europe, there's a kratom product called Krypton that also has like a really intense painkiller added to it too.
Uh,
And so yeah, of course, if you do a lot of that, you're probably gonna, you're gonna have depression in your respiratory system and die, because you're
mhm.
you're doing a lot more than one thing, and really those things shouldn't be combined anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, you use responsibly, as with all things.
Mhm.
You can get nicotine poisoning out, if you do enough of that too. Just
Mhm.
like Aaron Eckhart's character in Thank You for Smoking. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they
Yeah.
when
Oh
they
yeah.
slap all the patches on him and then he can't smoke cigarettes ever again in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, well, it's got an odd note to bring it up,
Speaking of
but yeah,
cigarettes.
speaking of cigarettes, they brought Mr. Lynch a lot of joy. They may have been his undoing, but that's life. You make your choices, and you live the life you can. That's our little, the more you know, for this episode, our little sermon on the mount for you all. But be sure to watch a Lynch movie tonight, after you watch this, and we will be getting back together, for another feature episode in a couple weeks to talk about The Monkey, the latest from Oz Perkins, inspired by a Stephen King short story. The trailers for that movie are fucking crazy.
Yeah. 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 I can't wait.
Can't wait. Well, thank you very much. Good talking to you, Matt. Take care and have a good couple weeks.
Yeah. See ya.